Please, before we get started, this meeting is being recorded on the town's YouTube channel. And your participation in this meeting is your consent to be recorded and rebroadcasted. And this time, if you have any electronic devices, if you'd either put them on mute or turn them off, I'd appreciate it. Roll call, please.
Clevenger.
Present.
Bill Clinton,
Here.
Bill Ham.
Here.
Rich West.
Present.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the November 14th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. May I have a motion, please?
I'll move that we approve the minutes for the November 14th, 2023 regular meeting.
It's been motioned by Mr. West. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ham. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is third reading ordinance 2023-019. Ordinance regarding the regulation of use of golf carts within the corporate limits of the town of Culver. May I have a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved. May I have a second, please?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next on the agenda is the first reading of the 2024 salary ordinance. And I think that all members of the council have the ordinance 2023-020, an ordinance establishing the wage and salary rates for the elected officers and non-elected officers and employees of the town of Culver, Indiana. Anybody had a chance to look at this? Any comments? Karen, do you, pardon?
Can you tell us what the rate is?
I can go. I don't know if we've got the raises on here. Do we have the raises, Karen, or just the,
You can do it in a second.
okay. Let Karen do that.
You're consistent with what we discussed at our last budget meeting. That was the correct.
So basically, the clerk's office is getting $2 per hour raise. The police department is a $1 raise. The street department is $4. The park is salary, so it would be overall a $6,000 increase. EMS essentially a $1, like $1 also for raise. And there's still some discussion that needs to take place with the fire department. I know we had increased their salary line item $5,000, but there still needed to be discussion on exactly how that was going to be split out. So, and that's, I was gonna try to get that taken care of before the next meeting. So I was asking for a briefing tonight and then follow up with it. Thank you.
Any other questions, Marlene?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2023-020 on first reading.
It's been moved by Mr. West, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Githens. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Next item is to set the last December meeting. So this is going to be a council decision here. What are the dates, Karen?
Meeting would fall on December 26th. The town hall is closed.
Okay,
And so I'm asking for either December 27th or 28th. I would recommend Thursday, December 28th.
okay.
But I move that we change the date for our last December meeting, December 26th, December 28th at 6:30 p.m.
Been moved by Mr. West, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Githens. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Next, the Dunes update.
Excuse me.
No, holiday calendar.
Putting my hand up for the city raising of the ordinance for the salary. When you do an ordinance, the first reading always come with public discussion or public hearing.
No, that would only be if it's a fee for the public. So in the example would be, we just had one for the building permit fees,
Right.
The golf cart fee, anytime that a fee would apply to the public, this does not, it isn't necessary for a public hearing.
Thanks for clarifying.
If you want a copy, I have a copy for you.
Yeah, I've got a copy too, if you want. Come up and get it, sure. Yep. Oh,
Holiday calendar.
holiday calendar's next, Bill.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bill. Thank you. 2024 holiday calendar.
Basically, there's 13 holidays and I just need approval that you guys are putting on the dates that they.
Make a motion, we approve the 2024 holiday calendar as presented.
Been moved by Mr. Guth and seconded by Mr. West. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Now, news update.
Yeah, you got me.
All
Hey,
right.
good evening. Like to report, we had a productive conversation with the developer back on November 15th. We discussed the issuing of the bonds. One of the findings is that we are looking at 2 disbursements for those bonds currently. The first would be at the start of what we're calling phase 1 of the infrastructure. That's associated with the first 2 residential buildings. That would be roughly about 220 to 225 units. That disbursement would be accompany the Ready grant that we have. The second disbursement is as a conditional disbursement. It would be associated with what we're calling infrastructure phase 2, and that's phase 3 and 4. That is a market demand build. So the developer would have to recognize the market for that build first and foremost. The second thing is it's conditional. It requires the town certification approval phases 1 and 2. So there would be 2 distinct periods of the disbursement on the bond. We're still in the working with Barnes and Thornburg in terms of structuring that economic development agreement. We don't have that currently, but we're looking forward to having that by the end of the week, early next week. Yeah, Rich.
Is there an additional cost or fee associated with issuing 2 sets of bonds like that?
That is, I was told no. And one of the good things is we're looking at how the capitalization on those bonds would work. We may be able to forego the capitalization. That's not a certainty yet, but that was something that was discussed during that meeting, which would be beneficial to both sides of the agreement, especially on our side of the bond payments. The one thing that we were firm on too was the amount has not changed on the original bond. So it's not raising the amount of the bond issuance. It's consistent with what we walked into the meeting with. The second thing that we were not negotiating, that had been flirted around with, for lack of better words, but the interest rate's going to remain where we were walked into the meeting wanting it at. So we were able to establish that, and it looks positive. Given those conversations, we're going to resume the economic planning calendar again and get back on schedule. Bill provided me an updated version. I put that on the Dunes website. So there's a new planning if you're interested in looking at the dates ahead, and there's going to be opportunity for public input. A special note on that, a public input on December 18th at the town library, 5 o'clock. We're going to have an economic development commission meeting, and we're going to consider a resolution for the bonds. So that will be a good opportunity for people to come in and hear more about it and discuss any concerns they might have moving forward. December 18th.
What are the amounts of the bond and the interest rate you were
Still
talking?
working on that.
Okay,
And probably going to wait until I get the official economic agreement back, Bill, before we put that out
so
there.
you don't even have the interest rate projection that is.
I have, right now, we're looking at probably 6.5. I can say that with certainty. On the amount I want to hold back on.
Yeah, just kind of following up, the bonds are gonna be in 2 series,
That's
so
right.
the bond work will all be done for the entire, both series. So there shouldn't be any additional bond council fees going forward. But it's gonna be, as he said, the second series is gonna be conditioned on meeting certain.
Criteria for the
Yeah.
first phase of the
Yeah, I mean,
residential.
What we don't want to do is issue second series of bonds if they haven't met the criteria
Right,
for the first,
makes sense.
so.
One of the motivating factors behind re-examining it was the fact that I didn't want to sit there with bonds issued without residential improvements, gathering the increment on the payment. Because if we're in the bond cost up front and we don't have the increment paying it back, it cuts into what we put back into the CRC.
So on the 18th, do you hope to have the dollar amount?
I'm hoping to have everything back
Yes.
hopefully by next week, and we should have that dollar amount. The only reason I'm asking to pause on that is because I want that economic agreement in my hand before we discuss that. I don't want to give you a
The
bad.
bond amount will probably be about the same we've always been talking about.
Sure.
It's just what part is Series 1 and what part
Right.
is Series 2.
That's right.
And.
And I can say that it's gonna be right in the neighborhood of probably 4.8 to 5.1. They build it a little bit extra for that room, but we're looking back at 4.8, but that is a very rough number. And I just want to provide that so you have some idea.
Do you have a time yet on that meeting on the 18th?
5 o'clock. It'll be Monday, 5 o'clock at the town library.
CRC is it?
CRC also has a meeting coinciding with it. Yeah, absolutely.
And if I may.
Please do.
We're gonna, as you said, we're gonna resume the planning calendar. So the town council at its Tuesday meeting on December 12th is gonna look at the first reading of the bond ordinance.
Oh, okay.
So, but as I said, it's gonna be for the entire amount. I hope, and I think we'll have a breakdown of the series.
The way
at
that,
point.
that Phil's writing the economic agreement, it's going to break the structure out in terms of disbursement. We talked about it today. So he'll have that language. I
And
think
that-
we'll need to do it.
We'll take up the bond, the bond ordinance at subsequent meetings. But right now, the planning calendar will call for a closing the end of January. So if you'll recall, I think at one of the earlier meetings, I think it was Stallings, it said something about how you're gonna get this all done in time.
By
Well,
December
Right, we couldn't do it.
Right.
So that it has been extended out to some degree.
We'll be looking at that. Yes, I'll go ahead, Tom.
Not revealing the specifics of it, but what are the components that are going into this bond? Is this for strictly infrastructure?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. Absolutely. So when we take a look, when we priced out the bond and the commitment of, and keeping in mind, this is a commitment of the TIF increment, right? This is not tax money going back. This is a commitment of the TIF increment that's being increased. We're looking at, what we looked at it, we were looking at, for the Ready grant, we're looking at sewer and water. Those two will, and those are going to be procured. When we looked at the remaining bond issuance, what we looked at was what I would consider hard infrastructure. We're looking at streets, we're looking at curbs, sidewalks, and we're looking at a percentage commitment of the overall towards that. So we're not paying for a clubhouse, for example, right? We're looking at hard infrastructure that the town will acquire upon completion. They're probably going to turn it over to us. Not probably, they will turn it over to us. So we're wanting it. That is all being also vetted by Midwestern. So any infrastructure that's going in and the plans are coming to the town's engineer and they're vetting it separately for us. And it's passing through their lens. So we're getting their input and returning it back to them with approval.
Would Midwestern be there on the 18th to answer any questions?
I do not have them tentatively planned because the bond, which won't really be discussing infrastructure at the time though, but.
Okay.
Yeah. It will
At
be
some
just
point-
bond. I'll probably have somebody, I might reach out to Kyle and probably have somebody from Baker Tilly make that line. But we'll see.
The development agreement requires them to meet town specifications, and those are gonna be provided by Midwestern, so.
Okay.
The, yeah, the Ready grant's gonna cover the sewer lines and the water lines
Specifically.
specifically.
Yep.
And it's gonna be treated a little bit differently, not having anything to do with the bonds, but it is gonna be treated a little
The
bit.
way the procurement works on that, because it's federal money, has to be separated and passed through Shannon, so. But everything else, it's gonna be hard infrastructure, yeah.
So my next part is part of this number you're talking about. Where's CRC's 1.2 mil? Is that part of the bond?
Yeah, that's not gonna be a separate thing. So you're talking about the matching for the ready.
Correct.
That is included in the bond amount. So we had to put the 1.3 in to match the ready. But that's part of the overall bond structure. Whereas before we structured a little bit differently, and that's what we're inviting. And again, that's why I'm a little bit, not hesitant, but I want to make
understand.
sure I don't answer that just as a tentative number. So appreciate the question. You're welcome.
What if he doesn't The developer doesn't fill up the 220.
It's 223, or the first phase,
First
two.
phase, yeah.
That's exactly why we want to pull back on some of that bond money and make it a two-phase incremental kind of a disbursement, because if he doesn't fill it and he doesn't decide to build that second part with phase 3 and 4,
Right.
we've issued the bonds into
Right.
the infrastructure and we didn't have any regulation over that. And that's why we decided to restructure and take a look at that. There's no requirement of him to build phase 3 and 4, but the nice thing is we don't have to issue a second series of bonds, and
Right.
that way we scale our bond based upon what they're building in
But,
terms of the.
but as to your question, Bill, because phase 1 and 2 involve a big portion of the units, which are the apartment units.
That's right.
rental,
Mhm.
You know, we're gonna fund those. I mean, we're paying the infrastructure for the water, the
That's right.
sewer. The other items, we have some leverage on, but for the water and sewer, we're committed to that right out of the chute.
And for everybody, the 3 and 4 that I keep referring to, the second tier of the infrastructure is going to be more the individual family homes. The about 70 some odd smaller but family homes that are going in. The bulk of is in phase 1 and 2, the apartment
So
structure.
who's gonna be the watchdog on how it's filling, or it's slowing down?
That's
And worse yet, is he gonna try to reduce the prices
sure.
of the apartments?
That's going to be, I mean,
Could
we
take
can't regulate
advantage.
on the pricing,
I
right?
know that.
Right? But with that, the way that we've committed the bonds, we've based it upon Baker Tilly's kind of projections on what they will go for. So it's based upon a conservative estimate. I appreciate, the question.
Is
We
there,
can't regulate the price.
is there a time frame that he has to complete 1 and 2?
We have it built in. It looks, right now it's at 2026, but we've been adjusting because of the delay. And
Well, I understand that,
Yeah.
but I mean,
It looks like right now, what we were told is 2026 was what we provided on the town when we asked them for knowledge. There was a TBD on 3 and 4 because it's market based, right? And on demand. So that's the dates that we were given.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we're pretty much in agreement on the development agreement, and some of these things will be worked out.
Right.
I'm not sure you were asking this, but I think the development agreement calls for them, or for them to actually pay for us to hire Midwest to do some of the construction inspection on
That's right.
on the infrastructure.
Yeah.
So
That's when I say that's who's vetting it, that's exactly right. And back
Make
to your
sure it
original
goes
question, if they choose to
Yeah,
drop the
yeah.
prices and stuff, they're hurting themselves because it's the increment that's paying the bonds. So
Right.
essentially, they're not getting the money.
I just
Yeah.
don't want default low income housing.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. I don't think that's absolutely not in their intention. And that's why they made it market-based pricing.
Okay.
Okay?
And if I may, just as a follow-up too, we still have to acquire easements. And the development agreement calls for an easement from Culver Equities. So that portion of South Main Street, we're gonna have covered. But we still have to acquire from that LLC that was owned by Dickey and then Howard. And thanks to your town manager and your utility fellow, they helped me out on that. So we're gaining on getting those easements. Whether we're gonna get them for a good price or not, that's another story, but.
It depends on who's the good prices.
Well, the conversation with the Dickey Corporation was, if it's not too big of an intrusion, then we'll be pretty easy on you. Yeah, but with Howard, we're gonna have to pay him something, I'm afraid.
Fair enough. That's the news for the night.
All right.
Thank you for the questions. I appreciate it. Move into the town manager's report with your permission.
You may.
Thank you, sir. Police, I discussed with Karen, we have, and discussed, Wayne brought it up to me. I want to communicate, bringing it forward to you guys. Unused vacation, holiday and personal time paying out before the end of the year. That was on his mind, and Karen and I have had a conversation about it. Some updates on interviews. They were pretty positive. Wayne is reaching out to different candidates and keeping me brief as he moves forward. I'm very hopeful that we'll have some news coming into the next town council meeting, beginning of next month. Keep checking with Wayne on that. Moving forward, I have a quote for lights at the street barn LED. Bob asked me to communicate this for him for approval. somewhere in this assorted mess of mine. I have it. You guys want an eye test, there it is, but the total amount is going to be for 2974.05. And it's to provide the new LED lights out of the street barn, and I asked for your approval of that. You did. I tallied it up.
So moved.
How much was it?
Second.
2009-7404, right?
29,
Yes, sir.
70.
2009-79.
I'll pass that around if you
That's what I
want.
thought.
Who made the motion?
I did.
You did. Mr. Githens made the motion. Is there a second?
I already did that.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Ham.
There you go.
Go on.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Application approved.
I have a second approval that's being requested from Bob. It's for 276,337. It's for a Pelican street sweeper. We've discussed it. Karen has gone out and found two different sources that are viable for financing. It will be to buy, unfortunately, the one that they had available that could be picked up, we're gonna have to wait a year on, it looks like. So this is the way. I'm asking for your approval for this as well as pursuing financing for it, if you would, please.
What's the amount again, please?
If you could, Bill, I'm sorry for just a minute. 276,337, Bill.
176 grand.
Yes, sir.
Where are we going for financing?
At a bond bank, and they vet out a number of different sources and they brought back to me.
Wow.
Very similar.
Have we gotten up?
You can't, I've attached it to the.
Okay, all right.
Here, our bill.
Is there a down payment on this? It comes out of street department, it comes out of, roads and sewers with,
So right now, I believe it comes out of the street department. Since it's a year out, we did actually make a down payment and then change the financing just a little bit. So the initial quote was like just 100% finance.
but it would come out of, if there's a down payment, it would come out of the street department.
Going on memory, I know we set aside money from a couple of different accounts for it.
Okay.
Motion to approve the street sweeper.
I'll move that we pursue the purchase and financing agreement on the street sweeper for the 276,000. 337?
Yes, sir.
So you're making a motion to approve purchasing it and then pursuing financing.
Yes.
Mr. West makes a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And Mr. Ham makes it. Seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you, gentlemen. Currently, just a couple updates for you. I'm drafting a request for proposal for the waste and recycling. Hopefully have that in Bob's hand by the end of the week for proofing. We'll be taking it out. We do want to try to get the sealed bids in by, I do believe we're talking about the end of January. That's what Bob and I discussed. So we're going to get that out there.
This is trash hauling.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for doing that. We kicked that can down the road the last 2 years and.
A little bit.
So,
A little bit, we'll get it corrected.
Yeah.
We should have it done by the end of the week and in Bob's hand. We got the Pazer study back from NACOG, took a look at the roads. They provided some really good insights. I was able to sit down and learn quite a bit about that study and did see some red. There are some roads of concern, but the nice thing is we're making solid progress with it. And large part due to the assistance of the money that's being rewarded from the community crossing matching grant. So we're making good progress and something that's on Bob's mind, keeping up with that, keeping it towards a goal of getting it quite a bit of improvement on the streets. So it was good to learn from him on that process. On a personal note, always a good time. I was able to meet with 8 students yesterday from Culver community. And we met for about 30 minutes. They took off their time out of a free period. The 2 questions that we really discussed, and I was surprised by this. The first thing is what's missing in town that you guys want? And I love the word hangout. They want to hang out. And I said, what is a hangout? And believe it or not, apparently their idea of a cool time is 1986. They want arcade games and pool tables. I said, that's cute. They're very interested in the theater. Believe it or not, they really would love to see that opened up. They said we would love a bowling alley. I said we had one. But it seems like they really do want a place to be. And that really resonated with me. The second question that I asked them, because over the last couple of months, I've heard the term Culver is a small town. And I hear a lot of people use that term differently. And I think it means a lot of different things to a lot of people in this town. It was interesting to hear their perspective. Out of the 8 kids that answered, when I asked them what is a small town to them, I think every one of them somehow referenced back to the school system over there, Culver community. That school to them is what Culver is. That's town. They mentioned football games and athletic contests. They love being with their friends there. They love the fact that they can walk down the halls and everybody knows them. And sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes it's bad. And I remember growing up in a small town. I know why it's bad. Everybody knows your business. But to me, that also kind of surprised and alarmed me that Culver town to them literally is that school. And they don't see themselves outside that community. It's almost like an enclave. And I don't know if that was always the case. I asked him, how many of you have parents or family that live in town? Not one of them raised their hand. I wrote that down. I just want to share that with you. So it was an interesting meeting. We're going to meet again next month. They look forward to it. And the best part was 2 of them asked me, would it be okay if we met in the evening? I said, you bet. The other thing we discussed is community service. They want it, they want to do it, and they don't mind painting curbs. They don't mind getting dirty, and they want to get in the spring cleaning. We're going to call it spring cleaning. We're going to plan out some work that can be done around town, and we're going to get them outside the school and back into town. So that was fun. That was a good time for me. Thank you.
I think it's a great thing that you did the outreach to the school. If we can step back a minute for the street sweeper.
Yeah, sure.
The financing page on this talks about leasing. It doesn't.
I asked Bob the same question, Rich, because I had the same question. He said it's just a phrasing that essentially it's a purchase at the end. It's just the way that they phrased it. That's the answer that Bob gave me because I didn't understand it either because I don't really.
Because you've got a zero balance at the end, so to me, it's ours.
That's exactly right. That's it.
I mean, that's,
And I'm not sure.
if I didn't see the zero balance, I'd be asking
I
questions.
think the way they do that is because you can have the option to walk out of it at the end or purchase it, but that's not the way it's structured. So I'm confused by that language.
Purchase,
Well,
it should be ours at the end.
it will be. It will absolutely be a purchase. I don't know why they use the word lease, Rich, but Bob assures me it will be ours at the end.
Well, and that was, I mean, I think that was the motion that we passed is that we are purchasing.
Yes.
And
It is.
And if it's through the bond bank, it should be a purchase.
It
Because I
is.
don't think the bond bank leases.
I'm glad that you guys are noting that because I had the same confusion.
Bond banks, they don't lease.
Yeah.
They
No,
finance.
they don't.
It's a lease purchase and they use that terminology because if you just went out and there are certain restrictions on just borrowing money to buy equipment. So if, for instance, if you're going through the bond bank, you're entering into a lease purchase and it's just it's
Terminology.
it's a scheme around
Some
the
lawyer wrote.
requirements.
Little lawyer wrote it.
I got the explanation for dummies today. It's not a lease, it's a purchase.
It's a lease purchase
That's fine.
and it's required by the statutes to avoid some restrictions on.
For the record, I just wanted to reflect on the purchase.
Thank you, sir.
Good stuff.
Thank you, sir. That's it for me. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Department head report, EMS. Anybody here or online to report for EMS? Pardon? Okay. Fire. Terry, you in the room? No? Terry, you online?
Yes. I just have one thing that I want to address with you tonight. Our hovercraft was damaged in training earlier this year, and we sent it off to be worked on because we couldn't find anyone local to do it. We took it to the company that we bought it from, and they started doing work on it. And at this point right now, they're telling me that it's in the range of $7,000. I haven't been able to get paperwork back from the company. They have our equipment, and right now I'm getting a little panicked on them because they were fixing things that weren't supposed to be fixed. So I just wanted to update you where we were at on that situation. It's been gone a month now, I believe. And that's the tool that we use for ice rescue. And that's really all I have information I have for you tonight.
Terry, is it engine or is it the balloons again or?
It's actually the fiberglass frame. We bought the thing from this company and it was used. And apparently there was some damage that we didn't know about on it, that they had fixed themselves. And while they were fixing the damage that we had, they found this other damage and said there was other damage. And we approached them and said, well, you had to fix it because that's the only place the equipment's ever been. So they said they're going to give us some kind of discount for that. We'll see about that. But it's fiberglass. It's not the motor and it's not the bags. The bags are a ever-changing situation as they wear out. We replace them. We do that on our own. We have our own guys do that.
Okay.
Anything else, Terry?
Nope, that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. I don't think we have anything from Wayne, do we?
That's what I provided you
Yeah,
guys.
you gotta give.
Park. Amber, you online?
He's not.
Okay. Utilities. Bob, you online?
I am. I have nothing for you other than I appreciate the purchase of that sweep.
You're welcome, sir. Building commissioner.
So this information is always going to be lagging, so this is for October. Building permits applied for, we had 25 in October compared to 16 in September. Fees for building permits and improvement locations. Culver received $3,262.50 in October versus $1,721.80 in September. This is a total for building permits, fence and roof permits, and BZA plan commission fees. I'm still working on Culver ordinances. The one I'm focusing on right now is our building ordinance. It hasn't been updated since 2009. Our zoning ordinances reference the building ordinance and a couple other town ordinances. So I'm going to get those taken care of. I'll come before you with updates. I get those done. So they align. So when we update our zoning ordinance, it aligns with our other town ordinances. One example would be a our street ordinance is another ordinance. Our street ordinance in town says your driveway needs to be 70 feet from an intersection, where our zoning ordinances say a driveway needs to be 40 feet from an intersection. So I'll be working on trying to get those things to align so our ordinances all work together. Another thing that I've read a lot of past minutes, past history on things, and even recently it's come up our 2-mile zoning boundary. We're not really close to fully extending to our 2-mile zoning. If there's interest in me to explore what it would take for us to extend out, be happy to start digging into that. That's up to you if you want me to look further. In some cases, we're probably a mile out, maybe less.
There was a fair amount of discussion about this in the comprehensive planning documents, and so you may want to check in with them before we go off into 2 different tangents on that particular topic.
Very well. Thank you.
Rich, to enlighten us, what way was the planning looking? To stay as we were, or?
It's more aggressive than that, because as was pointed out, it is not, we're not exactly at 2 miles every place. So it's not like, you took a 2-mile distance from the town boundaries, and there were some issues with Marshall County. So it's, and as that group was looking at, it's called the 2040 plan. So I mean, as we look at expansion or other things going on, that 2-mile boundary probably it needs Informed up in some areas and changed in others.
Thank you. So house at 815 Akron was demolished. I'm not satisfied with the current state. Now we're working with council, to get a remedy. In other words, it doesn't seem to be fully demolished to me. They took the equipment and left, or the majority down, but not all of it. There's also a couple more properties, few more properties in town that I'll be trying to get this week yet, sending letters out for houses that are dilapidated or accessory structures. For instance, there's a garage in town that's collapsed in that really needs to be taken care of. So I'll be sending more letters out this week. Moving on to the other committees, if I may, the technical review committee had 2 meetings in October. 1 case for each meeting. One was 300 East Shore Drive, Culver Marina's putting up a boat storage building that passed. 742 East Shore Drive, installation of 4 grand ledge walls. Pretty much to prevent the hill from sliding in. It already has a landslide at that address. They made it all the way to the into the lake. So this will look better, and it'll, the main reason for it though is to prevent the hill from sliding down.
What address is it?
742 East Shore. You stand at the academy and kind of look off to the southeast, you can see they have an excavator there where they're working.
Okay.
The Plan Commission had 2 cases on October's agenda. 827 College Avenue was a replat and 147 North Terrace was a replat. Both of these were just to clean up lot lines. Solar Ordinance Committee, we're still working, forming that, getting that around. Our moratorium was passed in August. A lot of activity going on in Marshall County with their solar ordinance right now, trying to follow what's happening with them to take the good and bad into consideration with what's going on there, but definitely a lot of attention in on Marshall County. Good place for us to learn from anything they do. Not saying that we need to follow their ordinances, but Culver can have its own ordinance. But just to note, something that came up to me was Culver's its own place should have its own ordinances. I agree, but also state code dictates a lot of what we can do as far as solar ordinance right now. So a lot of the ordinances are going to be similar in appearance because their foundations in state code. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So as we move further, more to come on that. The BZA had 4 cases on the agenda for the October meeting. 200 Coolidge Court for variance request withdrawn. Coolidge Court, no address, variance request withdrawn. 825 North Lakeshore Drive, request for a variance withdrawn. And Obispo, no address, variance request for setbacks was approved. They're going to put a house there. That would be opposite corner of the one I mentioned at 815, where that in that same block. Do I have anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you, Steve. Anyone from the Redevelopment Commission? Tree Commission. Anyone from the Tree Commission? Clerk's report, please.
I just had one claim over $2,500 for your approval. It's from Central Square Technologies for $2,787.88. And that is for to maintain the yellow signs by the schools with the solar flashing light.
I move approval for claims over $2,500.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Githens, seconded by Mr. West. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You'll see in the upcoming months that you'll be getting a new utility bill. It'll look different. We're changing utility billing systems. So no longer will we have the postcards that can get lost in the mail. You'll have a full size sheet of paper with more information. We're gonna this month will be this bill that goes out this week will be the last time you'll have the postcard. So Just trying to get the word out that things are changing, hopefully for the better. But bear with us as we'll probably encounter some hiccups as we switch over as utility systems. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Attorney's report.
President, I don't have anything for you this evening other than I talked earlier about the dunes.
Thank you. Anyone in the room for utility shut off or ordinance violation? Anyone online? Hearing none, citizen input. Yes, sir.
Joel Samuelson, 1111 North Lakeshore Drive. Just wanted to comment about tree lighting going on Saturday or Friday afternoon down at the park. And then the other one is there going to be a contest to name the new street sweeper?
There is now.
Oh, put it out there.
That's what I'm wondering. Do a little bit of fundraising for $5 per vote.
Call it Joel.
Yeah.
Call it Joel.
Here comes Joel.
Definitely. Anyone else has an input? Yes, sir.
My name is Rod Ringer, 15171 Plymouth. I had this big, long speech to talk to you guys about, but I'm afraid it's just falling on deaf ears here. We permitted 40 golf carts last year, and I don't know if you guys even considered that. We have stood up here and talked and talked and talked about our business. And you guys voted through today to $100 a permit. So we will pay $4,000 next year for our permits. And it's like you guys don't even care about our business. So there's gonna be some things changing for us. We have donated and donated and donated to the community and to the town and to the park and to the police department and to you, Bill Giddens, for a parade. And you just push this through. Sally was the only one in there that was against this. Everybody else, 66% increase on these permits. I understand a little bit of a permit increase, but 66%, and 2 years ago, it was 50%. So I don't think you guys take into consideration at all about our golf cart business. There's a lot of stuff I had to say, but my wife said, Rod, don't say it, because all you're gonna do is make somebody mad. So I just want to thank you again for sticking the knife in our back a little deeper.
Rod, I paid you for the golf cart when I used it in the parade. That's all I'll say.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
That a lot of the events that go on here in town, we attend. A lot of us in this room attend, but I never see any of you guys attend. Ever. I never see our president. I don't see you guys in town. I think a lot of people don't even, I can say that. Small businesses, not just the Ringers, but there's other small businesses in this town that, you know, do you even purchase flowers from our florist in town, from Elizabeth? Are you guys going to visit some of these businesses here in town?
Yes, ma'am.
On a regular basis.
I've seen you at Papa's, that's about it. Like, maybe a coffee over at BP or something, but other than that, I mean, there's a lot of people in the town who truly try to make a living. We talk about over and over again through the years about making a attraction to get people in here. If we have these empty buildings, we have businesses who can't sustain. What good is asking for people to come to Culver if we can't keep some of our own businesses that we have here in town up and going consistently?
Thank you.
That is something that, for 34 years I've been around here, that it's a ghost town here. But yet we keep saying we're gonna make everyone want to come here. Why do they want to come? What do we offer them? And again, the kids in town are saying it. So I just think sometimes we have to think about what we're doing and how we're treating the businesses that are already here and our community. and to take pride in it. And honestly, and this is like a bit of a rant, but this summer, the park looked like crap. I don't know what happened. I don't know why we don't have sellers over the years, you know, things changed. But those kids that are working there, they don't even know how to use a weed whacker. I've watched them. It's been dirty. There's been broken pipes. It's not what it used to be. Like the pride isn't even in our park. Just my input. My observation, and I'm not alone in this because a lot of people come to me and talk about it. So I'm going to be the voice tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening.
Anyone else online? If not, council issues, Mr. West,
Nothing.
Mr. Githens.
I have nothing.
I have nothing. Mr. Ham.
I just need to correct one thing on the, I did not vote on the golf course ordinance. No, you noticed that? So
Well, it was,
I didn't say yay, and so I'm, my vote is present.
okay. Well, we had three.
So I want, yeah, I just wanted to get it there.
Yeah, okay, so you voted present?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Githens, seconded by Ms. West. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.